Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode. So, last week I posted a 2-minute video essentially as a trailer for this piece here. Another Japan inspired piece of art here. One of the things about Japan that I really love is the style of the buildings. They have a very unique architecture there, and I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that everything has to be so compact and has to fit. And yeah, it's definitely a very striking difference from the rest of the big cities, in at least in North America. So yeah, here is a tribute to that. And as you notice here, I'm using Blender. Typically, I use Maya, but I just since realized that that Autodesk changed their subscription model, and it was something that I didn't mind paying a little bit of money for, just because I'm a long time Maya user, and as the old adage goes, with the old dog, new tricks kind of thing. I was definitely It was definitely the case for me where I was just really too lazy to jump into a new tool. I've always wanted to jump into Blender, but yeah, I was just too comfortable with Maya. But finding out that they changed their subscription model really kind of pushed me over the hump there. And so here we are, modeling in Blender. And what I found so far is Blender is actually, at least the modeling tools have been really intuitive so far. And I'm not doing anything crazy here, as in my other, models. I don't have like a lot of super technical knowledge when it comes to modeling, even though that is my background. Essentially, these are boxes that I extrude and pull points and extrude some more. So this is nothing crazy, kind of like how that Blender Guppy guide does crazy hard surface modeling. Definitely not on the same level here. But essentially what I'm doing here is just pulling points and making more boxes out of boxes, just to get the structural essence of what I'm trying to get. Getting the scales right, getting the compositions right, as always. Nothing super crazy, because at the end of the day, I'm going to paint it over again. And really, that is the most fun part of the process for me, is taking the bare bones, the foundational elements here, and painting it over. And that is the fun part. And I don't particularly enjoy the modeling part as much. As I've grown as an artist, starting with a 3D base, I've found that I am less technically inclined, and I want to sort of get rid of the technical aspects as much as possible, and I want to get right into the artistic and creative side as much as I can. Whereas other people definitely get more into the technical side of things. They get into the nitty gritties of like whatever, like how to do certain things with the tools, and I'm just not really into that. I'm definitely more into the artistic side of things, and I really just try to take the technical side as far as I need to, um, until I get to the more artistic side, and that's really where the fun begins. And so here I'm taking into Unreal Engine again, just to render out the model, to light it up and add some really basic materials to it. And someone had said in the comments, like, why don't you just do that in Blender? And yeah, I think that's a good point. I realized that the Blender can do all of these things that I'm doing here in Unreal. But again, old dog, new tricks. Um, that this is my first date with Blender, so taking it real slow here. Maybe we'll go a little further in the next one. But yeah, definitely Blender. That is something that I'm gonna have to get to know a little bit more as to how to render out an Eevee and or cycles or whatever, and figure out how to do all these things. And I'm sure Blender has all of these functions that I'm doing in Unreal right now, and maybe even better. One thing that Unreal does have that I'm not sure if Blender has is the Megascans library. So one of the cool things about Unreal is it's got its Quixel plugin that's built in right into the engine, and you can just load it up, and there's a bunch of assets and scans and materials out there that you can just apply to your scene. And I'm not sure if Blender's got that. Let me know in the comments if you got the answer to that. But yeah, definitely all of these things. I'm planning to definitely go a little further into Blender, you know, maybe on my third or fourth date or something like that. But yeah, Blender has been really cool. So definitely something that I'm gonna keep going with. The modeling tools have definitely been super intuitive. So I'm definitely more encouraged to keep going with it. So here, what I'm doing is I am rendering out like flat lit, like unlit, an unlit scene. And what I'm going to be doing with this is I'm going to be using it as a mask so that I can separate out the foreground from the background. And that just makes things easier in Photoshop when yeah, like right here. So um, I'm going to be applying that mask that I rendered out so then I can separate the render into layers so that I can paint the background without affecting the foreground and so forth. So I try to do that as much as possible when there are different layers of like more foreground, midground, and backgrounds, just to make the painting process easier. So again, going really, really quick here. Um, Lots of details, lots of like technical things, different brushes that I'm using. Um, so if you got any questions or you want to see anything in particular, just let me know. Just post it in the comments. But yeah, here is the definitely the fun part here. So I can't wait to get to this part. Every time I make a piece of art, especially when I'm going from the 3D to the 2D process, getting into the Photoshop, setting up my layers, um, and starting to paint is really, this is the most enjoyable part. This is the part where I put my headphones on, blast whatever music I want to listen to, and I can just do this for hours on end. And a lot of the times I gotta make myself stop, because it's getting too late and I need to go to bed. And yeah, and I think that's kind of when you know that you're having a lot of fun. And definitely this is the enjoyment here. So what I'm doing here is like, first and foremost, when you render out a 3D model, one of the really glaring things again is the sort of the sharpness of the polygons and how perfect it is. And it looks very unnatural. It looks extremely computer generated if you leave it like that. So one of the first things that I like to do when using a 3D base is breaking up the edges and kind of softening them up, and making edges and corners not so perfect. So I take like a texture brush and I start to just paint it over and break it down a little bit, add some slight imperfections to it, and so not everything is super straight or measured. And I think that adds a lot of character and a lot more personality to the piece. So yeah, here again, so as you can see, I'm taking a texture brush and just applying some slight imperfections to the edges there, just so it's not so laser cut. And as for brushes, I probably use, like, as you can see on the right there, I got like a ton of brushes. I should probably clean that up, but I probably use about consistently maybe 3 or 4 of those brushes. You know, like, I think as artists we're always like, yeah, what brush do you use? What there must be a secret brush that kind of just paints everything for you, kind of thing, right? And I still fall into that trap, that way of thinking. But as I go with learning how to paint, I realize that, like, you probably only need to use like 2 or 3, sometimes 4, um, and there's no silver bullet brush. um, so yeah, I definitely have like only a handful of brushes that I really go to, and yeah, I'm definitely hoarding a lot of different ones that I'm just kind of like scared to get rid of, I guess. So yeah, at this point, I'm starting to like kind of see where this is going. The details are coming in. I'm starting to get the character that I see a lot from like a building in Tokyo or something, where they just have like this crazy shape to it, and then on the roofs they have like these things that stick out, and it's extremely very cyberpunky, but in real life. And I just really love how the buildings kind of, it kind of comes up, and it builds up in detail as you go up, right? And at the very top there, you have like the appendages that stick out that make the silhouette really interesting. And here I decided to add some foreground elements. Also added a little bit of blur to those poles and to those power lines, those telephone lines, just so that I maintain the focus on the building itself. And now adding some clouds and some sky elements to the backdrop there. I kind of wanted the blue of the sky to kind of really frame the top tower there, so it kind of like funnels in to really focus your eye on the topmost tower. Really, like, I thought it provided a really nice compositional element there. Now adding the finishing touches, really just noodling the piece. Yeah, so right about here, getting to about like 90% complete, I always find that, and I think this is the case for a lot of artists, is, when they get close to completing the piece, they like really tinker on the smallest things to the point where no one else really notices the differences. Um, but I think it does. I think that last 10 to 5% really does do it justice. Um, yeah, and you hear a lot of artists say that the last 10% is like the hardest part, and just really finishing it and polishing it is takes a lot of effort. All right, so here's the finished piece. Definitely had a lot of fun with this one. Hope you did too. If you have any questions or comments, please just write down in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.